Hi everyone, welcome back to the Academy of God. Today I wanted to touch this sensitive subject, that of Russian royalty, and I want to speak concerning the Russian royalty, but from a prophetic insight from what I've received from the Lord. And it all started about a couple of years ago, since I wasn't quite acquainted and knowledgeable about Russian and their story and their history. But it was in a dream, and in that dream, the Lord took me into a house, into looked quite like a fancy house, a very big house, and there I saw four young, four young girls, maybe teenage, from the oldest to the youngest, and one child, which was a baby in the dream compared to the other girls. And when I saw that baby looked like royalty, like a prince, but someone who was in the centerpiece of the house. So I saw four girls and one baby who was r- the crown jewel of that family. They were all brothers, they were all sisters. And then in that dream, I had a vision in which the Lord showed me two. He showed me two fish which were large in size, two very large fish. And within each of those fish, I saw two small fish. So they were of the same species. So in total, we had four small fish and two large ones. And those fish represented souls. Each fish represented the soul of somebody. And one of those large fish was dead, while the other fish inside were alive, and the other large fish was alive, but only one large fish was dead. When I had that dream uh, quite some years ago, I didn't really understand what it meant. I prayed about it, but it's only recently that the Lord has started to talk to me a lot concerning different royal groups, and among them the Russian royalty. And this is when he highlighted that dream to me, that this fish represented the people that I saw in my dream were the daughters of the Russian Tsar and Tsarina. Because until few months ago, I had never seen any pictures of the Russian royals. But when I saw their pictures, especially later on when I learned about the place where they used to live, not the large palace in the not the winter palace, but they had that smaller kind of house, like a home palace where they used to spend time together. When I saw pictures of that, it reminded me of that dream that I saw, in which I saw these four girls playing together, as well as the baby that I saw, who represented the Tsarevich. And essentially, this was the Lord showing me that in that family, one of the large fish, one of the parents, because those two large fish represented the parents, the Tsar and the Tsarina, one of them died, but the other ones were kept alive. And this was the first dream that I had few years ago. And more recently, as the Lord started to speak now more openly about the different royal group from the world, and more precisely about Russia in this case, he showed me something else. And what he showed to me was that it was in a dream that I saw deep secrets, very deep secrets, in which were being kept hidden very, very deep in Russia. And these secrets were considered to be fables. In, Amongst today Russians people, they consider those secrets to be fables. But what I saw was that these deep secrets were real, and that as the descend as the descendants of the as the heir of the Russian monarchy started revealing themselves, I saw that these secrets started to come out one by one, these deep secrets hidden in Russia, and that the truth concerning royalty in Russia, which were being kept hidden, and many more other truths about Russian history, um, more precisions about their history, which were maybe falsified, or let's say truth that were twisted in Russian history by the Russians themselves, all of it started to be exposed. They started to become exposed, and the truth started to be revealed in Russia. And I saw that the catalyst for all those truths from Russia to start coming out will be as the heir of the Russian monarchy will start to reveal his presence. And I also saw that many things began to change in Russia, and many other things started to be discussed among the Russian people. All of that simply because the heir of the throne of Russia started to reveal himself. I was also shown in another dream in which kept seeing the word Tsar, which is how they call their king in Russia, the Tsar. I guess it's a word for emperor. So I kept seeing the word Tsar, and I kept seeing Russians with the word Tsar in their name. And I saw that, and as I saw that, I started to have a strong feeling that the truth concerning the survival of the last royals of Russia will start to come out. And in that dream, I started seeing people making videos. Young people, they were starting to make videos on different platforms, questioning the possibility of the survival of the Russian monarchy. And I was seeing this particular video in which the person was talking about the fact that people from the early 19s used they had the technology, they had the knowledge and different ways to change their identity and to have someone else's identity, to have a new identity. And just like today we have identity theft and fraud and all those things, it was already available in the early 19s. And I saw that in this dream, the particular video I was seeing in the dream, the person was discussing those different methods. Such a, and then I saw in this dream a man whose face was being changed to look completely different. And when I saw that, I thought that the last royals, the last royals who survived in Russia, they did something similar, meaning they changed their identity. They took on a new identity as they fled Russia. And I'm not talking about the brothers of the Tsar. I'm talking about the children of the Tsar, meaning the wife and the daughters. I don't know about the son, but I know about that. I was shown that the daughters, the four daughters and the queen, they survived. And in this particular dream, I was shown that they changed their identity, meaning when they fled, they took on new names, new they had a new history, a new life, completely new life. They had a completely new identity. I was also shown many dreams in which I saw that more and more people, I guess people from Russia, started to make videos and talk on different platforms a lot more about the Russian royalty, meaning there was a certain surge amongst the Russians concerning the monarchs and their history. And it's almost like a desire was created within the people, a desire concerning the monarchy, the Romanov family. And also, what I also saw in another dream, this one was in December of 2025. I saw that there were forces, and I mean spiritual forces of spiritual darkness at play trying to keep the identity of the heir of the Russian dynasty. They were trying to keep it hidden, meaning there were powerful forces of darkness working to prevent the revealing of the heir of Russia, of the Russian throne. Which also leads me to another revelation I had in that same dream, in which I saw that the heir of the Russian throne had a kind of white glowing substance within him, which was basically God showing me that this person was chosen by God, if you want, to be heir and king, if you want, of a Russia, which is also quite controversial because I know a lot of people don't like the idea that God chooses king, even though in the Bible God chose many king in the Bible, and he even says it in the Psalms that he raises king, but he also takes them down. He's the one who gives throne to kings, and he takes power from them. And what I saw is that there are forces of darkness working actively. And I'm talking about spiritual forces. So that they are working actively trying to prevent the revealing, the manifestation of the true heir of the throne of Russia, the true heir of the Russian dynasty, the Romanov. Which leads me also to another dream which the Lord gave to me, in which I saw that in that dream, in that it was a vision, excuse me, in that vision, I was seeing a chart with people's name written on it and a value assigned to each person's name corresponding to their popularity and their likelihood to become the next ruler or the next Tsar in Russia. And I saw that some people, especially one person in particular, I don't know that person in real life, but there was this one person in particular whose name in that dream, in that chart, I mean, in that vision, in that chart that I was seeing, they were first in line of succession, meaning that their value, their likelihood to become, that people thought that they would become the next Tsar if the monarchy was to be ever restored. People consider this person to be the most likely to be the next Tsar, and this and the value assigned to him was very high. Then I saw other people which came after that they had lower value assigned to them. So these were the people that the Russians thought that they were the most likely to become the next rulers, the next Tsar of Russia, if the monarchy was to ever be restored. But then I saw one person whose value was assigned to was zero, meaning no one in Russia knew about that person. See, the heir that I'm talking about here is a descendant from the Tsar and the Tsarina, and you'll see it more clearly as I share other dreams that the Lord revealed to me. So this person is a true descendant of the Russian bloodline of that dynasty of the Romanov, and the Russians don't know about that person because the value assigned to them was zero, and they were last in the line of succession. In fact, they weren't even there. They were just in their own corner. But then I understood when I saw this dream, this vision, I understood that this is how the world sees things, meaning in the eyes of the world, this is who they think are the most likely to become the next rulers of Russia. But then there was this person who was first in the line of succession in the eyes of the world because they didn't know about that person. And yet this was the person that God had reserved to become the next ruler of Russia, to become to sit on the throne of Russia. And I know that a lot of people will say that it's impossible that something like that happen, which I'll also get into. But here, as you can see, this story reminds me of that of David. People knew that Saul was the king, and so his son Jonathan was to be the next king. And yet there was David, who had been anointed by the prophet Samuel that no one knew about. No one knew about him. But God had already chosen David to take on the throne. We may also think about the story of Jesus. When Jesus Christ was born, no one knew that Jesus was the descendant of David, and he's the one who was supposed to be the king of the Jew when he was born. No one knew that until the three wise men came from the travel announcing that the king of the Jews was born. And then we know the rest of the story. And I believe that the reason why God kept the identity of the heir of the Russian dynasty hidden for all this time is because his timing, but also most likely protection. Because as we know, according to the official story, the whole family was assassinated. Even though from what the Lord showed me, only the king was assassinated. I don't know what happened to the son of the king, but I know that the queen and the four daughters survived. They left the nation of Russia and they changed their identity, meaning they continued living under new names. And they had children, and their children had children, and so on and so forth. And one of them is the heir of the throne of Russia, and the one that God has chosen to sit on the throne of Russia. And if God has chosen him, and we know the story of David, we know the story of Jesus, then we can expect to see things will start to move and God will establish that person. And as I saw in these dreams, there will be pushbacks because there are forces of darkness that are working against, trying to prevent, trying to stop that from happening, which leads me to think that the Russian Revolution, there are many lies concerning the Russian Revolution and the true intention, the intent for the reason of why they happened, which will be exposed, which God is going to start exposing all the lies and the truth that have been hidden in Russia concerning the Russian Revolution is going to also start to be revealed. And all of it will culminate with the revealing of the heir of the Russian dynasty, whom the Russians themselves don't even know about. But in due time, God will reveal him and, I guess, lead him. That also means that for the people in Russia to pray concerning it, to pray that the will of the Lord will be fulfilled concerning the leadership in Russia, and that his hand will be upon his chosen heir for the Russian throne to guide him and to protect him from any powers of darkness wanting to stand in the way of what God wants to do in that person's life. Another thing which was also revealed to me the 24th of December in the night, meaning just before, yes, we can say it was almost Christmas Eve. So I had a dream in that night in which I saw that the Russian family, contrary, uh, contrary to what was apparently is being told, that the Russian family, the Russian royal family, uh, people didn't like them. What I saw in the dream was that the Russian royal family the last Tsar and Tsarina and their children, I saw that they were greatly beloved by the people, by the Russians. I saw that the Russians loved their royals a lot. They loved their Tsar, their Tsarina, and the children that came with it. They loved them a lot. And I saw that even till today, the Russian people still love their Tsar and their Tsarina and the children that come with it. Despite what seems like, because from the research that I've had, that I did around this subject, it seems that people talk a lot about how the population was very discontent with the Tsar and the Tsarina. But from what God showed me, the Russian royals were greatly loved and they were greatly beloved. Their whole family, the last royal family from Russia, they were greatly beloved by the population, which leads me to believe that the whole Russian revolution and the whole history concerning it is a lie. There are a lot of lies around that Russian Revolution. And all of it, as I've already shared with you with the first dreams, that all those lies, God is going to expose them in Russia. Not from the West, but in Russia, the Russians people will start to question their history themselves, and God is the one who is going to start to put that desire within them. God is going to supply all the information, all the proofs that are being kept hidden in Russia. God will reveal them. All the documents, God will start to reveal them and put them in the hands of the right people. And the truth about the Russian history will be revealed. And the lies concerning the Russian Revolution will be exposed. Everything is going to be exposed and all truth will be revealed. As Jesus said that there is nothing hidden which will not be revealed. There is nothing hidden which will be kept hidden. Everything will be revealed. Then I also saw in this dream that I had in the eve of December, or in the eve of Christmas on 2025, I saw that there was a lot of secret in Russia concerning the Russian royal family, especially the last Tsar family, meaning Tsar Nicholas II and his whole family, which were connected to the hair of the of the bloodline, of that royal bloodline, which was connected to the living hair of that royal bloodline. I saw many secrets concerning it. But in the dream, I had a hard time to see them because there was an invisible walls stopping me from seeing those secrets, which were tying the Russian royal family and their living hair today. And that invisible wall was preventing the revelation about the connection between them, between the living hair and the Russian royals, to come to light. And other secrets about about Russian royals connected to the hair. Meaning, then again, there are satanic powers. The whole Russian Revolution, I wouldn't be surprised that the whole Russian Revolution had a satanic agenda behind it. Something satanic happened with the Russian Revolution. A lot of occultic powers were linked to it. A lot of altars, satanic altars were raised. And there are dark forces fighting in the spirit realm trying to prevent the revealing of the survival, because these secrets concerning the Russian royalty, it concerns their survival and how they survived, but also where they ran to and where their children lived, and so on and so forth, because all those secrets are is what connects the Russian royals to the living heir of the Russian royals. And you'll understand why, because as I share with you the next dreams, you'll realize that the heir of the Russian royalty, their connection between them and the Russian royalty is not obvious. And that's why there are dark powers that are fighting against it. Because unless all the truth are exposed concerning the survival of the Russian family, of the Russian royals family, it will be hard for people to realize who are the true living heir of the Russian dynasty. Simply because these people seem to not be obvious. Because from what the Lord showed me, apparently, Russian people don't know who the true heir is. And most likely, they are not even in Russia right now. They might not even be in Russia. They could be anywhere else in the world. But anyways, now I'm going to share what I saw about Russian, the heir to the Russian throne, the Russian dynasty. So the very first dream I had started in last year, 2025, in April. And what I saw was the heir of the throne. I saw him and a lot of people surrounding him who seemed to be soldiers from the army, and they went to a palace. At that point, I didn't know that it was about Russia. I was just seeing the Lord was just revealing things to me about royalties. So I was just seeing things, and I didn't know it was about Russia specifically. So in this dream, I was seeing the heir of the Russian dynasty being taken into a palace, and the gate of that palace were opened up, and I saw how the past rulers, meaning the Tsar and the Tsarina, but in this case I only saw the Tsarina, and she looked advanced in age. Maybe someone in their 60s or 70s, I guess. And the person, at least I saw in the dream, seemed to have taken a lot of weight compared to the Tsarina that we see in the pictures. So she seemed to have gained weight with the as the age passed went by. And I saw that those Russian, so the Tsar and the last Tsarina, they had passed away, and they had passed down the throne onto the heir, this person that I was seeing in the dream. And thus that person was made king over this kingdom that I was seeing, which was Russia. And that person, that the heir, he inherited the palace and all of the possessions of the Russians, of the Romanov Dynasty. He inherited all of their possessions. It was given to them. And when I saw this dream, I started remembering all the old dreams that I used to have about royalty. And I started realizing that I started understanding that all these dreams were actually prophetic and that what I was seeing was actually real and that it would happen. God would make all those dreams come to pass. So this was the first dream that I had concerning the heir of the Russian dynasty. The first dream I had concerning him directly. So, and then the second one was in August of last year again, in which I was seeing two brothers and they were dressed like those Western royals, meaning those dresses which looked like someone is from the army. Because so they were wearing those dress like the Westerns royalty usually wear, where the men are dressed like they are part of the army. So these two young boy that I was seeing, they didn't know that they were princes. They thought they were just normal citizens. But in the dream, I knew that God had promised the one of them a kingdom. And then suddenly, so there was a certain suddency in this dream that happened. The entire scene changed, and now I was seeing the king, the one who was king of that kingdom. And I want to make a precision. At that point, I hadn't done any research concerning Russia yet because I was still putting all these revelations concerning the Russians' royalty, the royalties, I was putting them in the back of my mind, not really taking them too much seriously. So at that point, I didn't know anything about the Russian royalty. But in this dream, the person that I saw, the king of that kingdom that I saw, he looked exactly like Tsar Nicholas too, even though I hadn't seen him before. It was exactly him, dressed like him. Well, not like the one on the image, but the one where they dress like looking like the army uniform. Exactly dressed like that. And I was shocked later on when I started doing my research about Russia and their royalty, and I was shocked to see the Tsar Nicholas too, and see that he looked exactly like the person that I saw in my dream. So going back to the dream, I was saying the the king of that kingdom, and I saw that the two boys in the dream who thought they were just normal citizens, even though they were dressed like royals. They thought they were just normal citizens, meaning they were not aware of their true identity yet. I saw that now they had become I mean one of them at least. I saw that the heir he had become aware of his identity as him and his brother they were aware of their identity as princes, and the one of them became aware that he had been chosen as heir and next king after Tsar Nicola II. He had been chosen. And I was also aware that the crown that the heir of the dynasty The crown that he had received was because the king had decided to choose him as the heir of the Russian dynasty. Meaning, if that heir was to displease the king, he could give that succession throne to the other person who was his brother in the dream. In other words, I saw that the heir of the throne was chosen to be the next ruler of Russia, not because of anything he had done or not because he qualified for it, but because the king had chosen to do so. He had chosen to give him the throne. And the king in this dream represent at the same time the Tsar Nicholas too, but he also represents God. Because oftentimes God will take the form of certain people in my dreams to speak to me, and this it's usually symbolic. It's symbolic, and in this case, here it is God speaking as a ruler also, because God is the one who appoints king. He's the one who appoints kings, and he also takes them down. He takes the kingdom away from them. And in this case, it is God who chose that person to be king, to be the heir of the Russian dynasty, to be the next one in line of the throne. It is God's sovereignty, His will. He decided to do so, not because that person qualified for it or because of anything they did, but it's simply because that's whom God wanted to have seated on the throne of Russia. And in the dream, I saw that all of this happened suddenly, meaning one moment the crown prince, the heir of the Russian dynasty, the Romanov dynasty. So one minute he was a normal citizen, and the next minute he was a crown prince, chosen to be king and to inherit the entirety of the kingdom. And it was a very, very large territory that I saw that was given to him. A very large territory, extremely large. And then in the dream, the king started to name all the different cities in the kingdom that were being given to the heir. He started to name all those different cities. Of course, I didn't remember all those names. I mean, when I went to see the names of the Russian cities, it was already hard for me to even pronounce them. So in the dream, I didn't really pay attention to that. But the king started to cite all the different names of the cities from that large kingdom territory. And real and notice how I'm talking about kingdoms here, because as much as we call ourselves nations and countries, from God's perspective, He sees kingdoms. Because in God's heavenly order, it's royalty. And as we are drawing nearer and nearer to the coming of Jesus Christ, because Jesus, He's not coming back to rule the earth as a president. Jesus is not coming back to rule the earth as a president. He's not. There are no presidents in heaven. Jesus is called the King of Kings, meaning He is a ruler. And beneath Jesus, there are other rulers. There are kings under Jesus. There are kings in heaven. It's written in your Bible. Principalities, those are princes. There are princes of darkness, but there are also heavenly princes. There are rulers, kings. There are thrones in heaven. So, royalty is the order of God. And as we are drawing nearer and nearer to the coming of Jesus Christ, Jesus is going to reestablish royalty all throughout the earth, and he's going to do it by creating a desire in the heart of people. So don't be surprised if you start to see in different nations more and more people want to go back to royalty. Whether in Europe people want to go back to their monarchy, in Africa you'll see people who wants to go back to their chief of villages or their kings, their different kings. In South America or in Asia, don't be surprised if you start to see a rise in popularity of royalty and monarchy and people wanting to go back to them. This is God creating that desire, because by the time Jesus comes back, monarchy, royalty will become the normal order. And if you read the book of Revelation, it's talking about the kings. With the Antichrist, it's talking about the different kings. It's not talking about the presidents. It's talking about kings rising up. And I'm not here to say whether monarchy is good or bad. I'm just saying what is the order of God and how God is going to restore things and do things. And I won't go into too much details, but even recently also, as the Lord started to talk to me about all these royalty things, one of the things that he showed me was that in a dream I had a vision in a dream in which I was being explained that monarchy is the natural order of things. That monarchy is how things should be ordered. Because we humans were supposed to model our society according to God, according to how heaven is ordered. And in heaven, they have rulers, they have kings, they have princes, they have lords. That's why Jesus is called the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, right? He's called the God of Gods. So he's even called the Prince of Peace. All these names are name related to royalty. He's called the King of the Jews, the Prince of Peace. I mean, and by the time Jesus comes back, because he's not going to force people to change their view on things, but by the time he comes back, monarchy will be the normal thing. And that's what I'm here to announce now, is that the world is going back to the Old Testament. And I'm not talking about uh, we are giving up the new covenant. I'm talking about how things used to be ordered, how the world used to be. The world is going back to the Old Testament, to the old ways. So don't be surprised that God is will start to expose things all around the earth, whether in Russia, in America, in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, or everywhere. God is going to expose all kinds of lies. He's going to reveal all kinds of truth. And you'll start to see a resurgence of the old ways, the old kingdoms. People will start to talk more and more about the old kingdoms, ancient territories, ancient families, all those things. Ancient bloodlines will start to make a comeback, all those things. And God is the one who will stir up the people to become interested about those subjects as he starts to reveal the truth. and to restore the order of the world, because God is going to change the way the world is ordered. And one of those things is the reestablishment of monarchy, royalty all around the earth. But even as monarchy is being established, there are those that God has chosen to take on those thrones. It's not a guarantee that they take the thrones because there are powers of darkness fighting them. Powers of darkness who wants to usurp those positions, to take away those seats of powers. That's why it's important for people to pray that God's chosen, God's choices sit in position of powers, that those thrones will be given to the people that God has chosen, and not to those who will come and usurp and steal those seats of powers.